Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Inshallah, we'll begin with the recitation of the Holy Quran. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Al-Tariya mal-Tariya wa ma adraka mal-Tariya yawma yakunun sutal farashi وتكون الجبال منفوش فأما من ثقلت موازينه فهو في عيشة راضية فأما من خفت موازينه أمه هاوية وما أدراك ما هي نار حامية صدق الله العلي العظيم اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد
Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. Inshallah, we'll proceed with the lecture by respected scholar Sheikh Mahdi. Please welcome him with another salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة على رسول الله وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه المنتجبين سيما بقية الله في الأرضين عجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى قيام يوم الدين رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Inshallah, tonight we'll continue our reading of letter 31 of Nahj al-Balagha, where Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salatu wasalam is admonishing his son and providing life lessons for him to live as a committed Muslim. And we are learning from this letter, both in our abilities to be good Muslims, committed Muslims, but also to prepare and build on our responsibilities as parents to raise children in this day and age that best supports them in their pursuit of being committed Muslims, inshallah. So we arrived at this passage now that the Imam states, يا بني إني قد أنبأتك عن الدنيا وحالها وزوالها وانتقالها. My dear son, I've informed you of this passing or temporal world, its state, current state, and its eventual demise, and its flight, its passingness. وأنبأتك عن الآخرة وما أعد لأهلها. And I also informed you of the hereafter and what has been prepared therein for its inhabitants. وضربت لك فيهما أمثال وضربت لك فيهما الأمثال لتعتبر بها وتحذو عليها. And for you I set now forth a parable, an example related to the two of these, temporal world, this world and the hereafter, that you may learn from it and you may act accordingly. So then the Imam draws this image of the relationship between this world and the next. إنما مثل من خبر الدنيا كمثل قوم سفر نبى بهم منزل جديد فأموا منزلا خصيبا وجنابا مريعا فاحتملوا وعثاء الطريق وفراق الصديق وخشونة السفر وخشوبة المطعم ليأتوا سعة دارهم ومنزل قرارهم. It says the parable of those who understand the temporal world, this life, for what it is like a host of travelers who are displeased with the barren destination for which they find themselves. So they set out for a fertile destination with lush pastures and endure the toils of this journey, of the road, the separation from friends, the harshness of travel, and the coarseness of their food and meal, to reach the comfort of their own home, that permanent destination. فليس يجدون لشيء من ذلك ألما ولا يرون نفقة فيه مغرما. And they feel no pain in any of that, and do not consider what they have spent in this journey and what they have given, what they've sacrificed, to be a loss. ولا شيء أحب إليهم مما قربهم من منزلهم وأدناهم إلى محلهم. And for them, nothing is dearer than that which brings them nearer to their destination. So this is the first group, or this is the parable of the first, the first group of people who understands the relationship between this world and the next. This is how they understand the relationship. And the Imam begins to explain that second group. We'll provide some very basic analysis. And the Imam says the second group is like this: وَمَثَلُ مَنِ اغْتَرَّ بِهَا, the parable of the one who has been deceived by this world. كَمَثَلِ قَوْمٍ كَانُوا بِمَنْزِلٍ خَصِيبٍ فَنَبَى بِهِمْ إِلَى مَنْزَلٍ جَدِيدٍ. Those who have been deceived by the reality of this world is like a host of travelers who has been in a fertile land and who is traveling to a barren destination. Exactly the opposite. فَلَيْسَ شَيْءٌ أَكْرَهُ إِلَيْهِمْ وَلَا أَفْضَعَ عِنْدَهُمْ مِنْ مُفَارَقَةِ مَا كَانُوا فِيهِ إِلَى مَا يَهْجُمُونَ عَلَيْهِ وَيَصِيرُونَ إِلَيْهِ. And nothing is more detestable to them or frightful than the departure from where they have been and their journey to where they will proceed and where they will end up. So, to again appreciate the example that the Imam is using, there are two types of people. They understand, both of them, that there is a current living situation, and then there is a destination that they will eventually arrive at. The first group understands their position to be in a barren land. And of course, life there is not only unideal, but it's unbearable. A person can't live like this. So they are moving in pursuit of a life that is more appropriate to their humanity. They're looking for circumstances that are conducive to live as a human being fully and to obviously gain the pleasure of God. And because of that, anything that brings them closer to that destination is enjoyable, it's acceptable, it's dear to them. Anything that keeps them where they are is problematic, is detestable. And that second group is exactly the opposite. Where they are right now is incredibly appealing to them. It's comfortable. And because of that, anything that moves them away from this is problematic. And they know that when they move from this place to their ultimate abode, this destination, that's somewhere that is full of affliction and full of difficulty, so they don't want to go. So each of these groups kind of attaches themselves to that destination which is most appealing to them. Now they said, brother, it's so simple. Why are you taking so much time to explain this? Sometimes the unlocking kind of like the challenges of life is in appreciating the simplicity of these issues. And the Imam is giving this example. He says, this is an example that will solve many of your problems. If your objective in life is to move from a place, a type of life that is restrictive and that is ultimately displeasing and unsatisfactory, then you've already made a determination. Whatever this place can offer you, it's not going to be enough. And it's never going to make you feel satisfied. At best, it is distracting you for some period of time till you come back to this realization that you're not happy. Imagine someone who's just not happy in life. They can, or others can, occupy their attention, their mind, give them tasks to do, give them something to do. They can, there's all sorts of different things they can attempt to try and take their mind off of that fact that they're not happy. And all the things that they're doing is not resolving the crux of their problem. So again, it's distracting them. In many cases, if not most cases, that person is not able to rid themselves of that kind of existential hurt, burden, or dissatisfaction. Doesn't matter how things are going at work. They may, chase after their career. They may consume themselves with other activities and with other hobbies and service and education, whatever it is. Pleasures, vacations, travel. Those things are not going to make that person happy. So for that individual, they yearn for something more. When a person is intentional in moving towards a place, a type of life that will satisfy them, that will make them happy, then first they find it painful for anything that holds them back, because it's like an imprisonment, it's like torture. And the second thing is that they will tolerate kind of the difficulties that are needed to allow them to arrive at that destination. It's not that they're saying, well, things are not really good now, but if I want to be in pursuit of a better life, I have to struggle, and I'm not willing to undergo the hardship, so I'm going to stay here. No. If a person is truly looking for happiness, they're looking for pleasure and content in life, they'll endure and they'll embrace those difficulties, those discomforts, because ultimately it'll be worth it. So the examples that the Imam gives are also very pertinent. He says they will endure the toils of the road. So the travel itself is going to be difficult, uncomfortable. So imagine our modes of transportation. If we want to get to the other side of the world, we hop on a plane, take us a few hours, let's say half a day, and we're there. If they use another mode of transportation that is less efficient, then it'll take us, twice the amount of time, triple, quadruple, however many, 10 times longer. And each of these factors that we take into consideration, depending on how comfortably or not that we travel, there's a challenge in travel that we have to endure. So all the upgrades that we can have, highest class, even the platinum class people who travel, they still have some challenges that they have to endure. So the challenge of life is going to be full of these things. It's long, it's arduous, it's at times lonely, and it's relentless. The person who's committed takes those in stride. So the toils of the road. Number 2, the separation from friends. So separation from friends, again, can signify different things. Let's say in the process of that travel, you had people who were your companions, but because of one reason or another, they're not able to continue with you. Your caravan gets broken up, something happens. So it's tough. Though you may be traveling to the same destination, you're not with each other. The travel is more difficult. It would become a little more tolerable if you were with people who you cared about you, and you enjoyed their company. Or they may die. Their journey at that point may end. They may not be able to follow. That's one way of looking at separation from friends. Your responsibility in life may draw you to a different part of the world. It's your obligation. You're pursuing, educational opportunities. You don't do that because you're chasing after the world. You're doing that because you're chasing after this other life. And this is just but a step to get there. You have certain obligations. You need to develop skills. So you pursue a career that requires you to be away from friends and family. Your work may require travel. Again, if it is in pursuit of that better life, Imam says that person is able to not only endure it, but it is warranted for them to do so. That father, that mother, that sibling who is going out in the world in pursuit of something that serves him or herself, their family, the larger Muslim community, the good in the world, and is doing that to advance their progress towards this hereafter, that's commendable. That's a person and their kind of networks who are enduring that hardship. So imagine shuhada that spend their time in shuhada. Sometimes it's in armed conflict. Sometimes it's an injustice that is done to them, or it's the living shuhada that are a witness to God's promise and to God's call, and they are sincerely pursuing that. Those people are also separated from their families, their loved ones, and it's difficult. Number 3, the harshness of travel. We kind of discussed this. We've said the different modes of travel. Travel itself can be incredibly difficult. Number 4, and the coarseness of food. Again, think of food here as the pleasures of life. Travel, for the most part, is not a pleasure in life. You have to do it, and you can do it in a way it's a little bit more comfortable. But food, you need it to survive, but also it's a source of great pleasure. So the food that you consume, that is to kind of fuel your journey, to strengthen you, to keep you of sound mind and body, that food may be, or will be, of course, not be enjoyable. It won't be those. You won't be able to enjoy those delicacies because they require you to change your direction in life. Imam says you endure it. You endure it. And all of this is to reach the comfort of their own home, their permanent destination. So as a younger person, and again as a parent, right, who is trying to groom their children to be travelers of this road, of this journey. These are the things that, these are the kind of conversations that we need to be having with them to say, listen, like your journey in life is going to be accompanied by many difficulties. Your objective is not to remove these difficulties as a part of your journey. I'm not saying you should bring it upon yourself, that if you travel in the most painful and exhausting way. No. But your objective in life is not to say, well, I'm getting from one point to another, let me do it in the least painful way possible. It shouldn't be that either. So you will have moments where the harshness for travel is felt, where the separation from friends is felt. And it's needed for you to be able to make that journey. So a person should be prepared for that because their objective is sacred and it's worthy of making that sacrifice. Now, all of these things. Now, imagine if you flip the situation, you change the scenario where a person is chasing after the world. All of these things obviously are meaningless. You shouldn't endure the toils of the road. You should try and make it as bearable as possible. You try to circumvent them as much as you can. Right? That's the name of the game. You try to maximize the amount of pleasure that you have with the least amount of pain, and whatever it is that you want to do. If you're serious about chasing the world. So if you can cheat someone and you can advance your position because you're chasing the world, you should do it because that's your objective. If you can, take advantage of people, if you can lie, you can cheat, all of those things. If you can do those things to get ahead in life, because your objective is where you are right now to try to secure as much as possible, you should do it. But that person, Imam says, has been deceived by the world. So have we been deceived by the world? That's a question each of us has to ask individually. And I think it's a fair question to ask, right? Because the Quran speaks about this notion too, of the life of this world, or the promises, the satanic promises are all delusions. كل نفس ذائقة الموت وإنما توفون أجوركم يوم القيامة. That every soul shall taste death, and indeed you will be paid your full rewards when on the day of resurrection, when you're resurrected. فمن زحزح عن النار وأدخل الجنة فقد فاز. So the person who is delivered from the fire and is admitted to paradise, that person is the felicitous, the successful. وما الحياة الدنيا إلا متاع الغرور. And the life of this world is nothing but the wares of delusion. So the Quran speaks about this world already to have that quality. Again, in those satanic whispers and promises, يَعِدُهُمْ وَيُمَنِّيهِمْ وَمَا يَعِدُهُ الشَّيْطَانُ إِلَّا غُرُورًا. He makes promises and gives them false hopes, yet shaitan does not promise them anything but delusion. Okay. So this hayatul dunya, this lower life, and the Imam is speaking about this lower life in the form of those people who, identify this life as being more valuable. Those people are lying to themselves, and they've been deceived, the Imam says. But those people have no choice but to cling firm to the pleasures of this world, because what follows it is going to obviously be not that enjoyable. So these are kind of like big picture questions to see what our orientation is like in life. And we can look at some of these kind of descriptions that the Imam is giving to identify whether we resemble a person who has determined this life to be, unsatisfactory and is moving towards something that is really desirable and is pleasurable and brings them happiness, and because of that they're able to endure those things, or no, the opposite perhaps is more true of us. Something to think about. And these are conversations that are to happen as families, but also they're conversations that they're soul searching that people need to have, and assessments of their life and their life's objectives. Okay. Then the Imam says, dealing with other people. يا بني اجعل نفسك ميزانا فيما بينك وبين غيرك. My dearest son, make yourself a standard for your relations with other people. So we understand this for the most part in kind of religious traditions, ethical traditions, to be the golden rule, right? Treat others as you want yourself to be treated. So the Imam says, make yourself a standard for your relations with others. And obviously here, it's not to say if someone has devious standards and wants evil things that they should extend that to other people. No, that's a very dangerous That's a very dangerous thing to suggest. But again, he's saying that's the easiest way to get through life and to deal with people charitably. فَأَحْبِبْ لِغَيْرِكَ مَا تُحِبُّ لِنَفْسِكَ. So love for others what you love for yourself. Again, taking for granted that there's a level of natural kind of inclinations that exist. وَأَكْرَهُ لَهُ مَا تَكْرَهُ لَهَا. And detest for them what you detest for yourself. وَلَا تَظْلِمُ كَمَا لَا تُحِبُّ أَن تُظْلَمْ. And do not wrong others just as you would not like to be wronged. So the do unto others as you would like done unto. That golden rule is that's pretty, for the most part, it's understood. But this wronging other part for whatever reason sometimes is excluded. Don't wrong others just as you don't want to be wronged. وَأَحْسِنْ كَمَا تُحِبُّ أَنْ يُحْسَنَ إِلَيْكَ. And do good to others just like you want good to be done to you. وَاسْتَقْبِحْ مِنْ نَفْسِكَ مَا تَسْتَقْبِحُ مِنْ غَيْرِكَ. And consider deplorable from yourself what you consider deplorable from others. وَارْضِ مِنَ النَّاسِ بِمَا تَرْضَاهُ لَهُمْ مِنْ نَفْسِكَ. And accept from people what you accept from yourself for them. All of these are just, the Imam is expounding on this golden rule that he's saying. And because this has been the, subject of many, many, many talks and reminders and admonitions, I won't really spend more time here. I'll move forward. وَلَا تَقُلْ مَا لَا تَعْلَمْ وَإِنْ قَلَّ مَا تَعْلَمْ وَلَا تَقُلْ مَا لَا تُحِبُّ أَنْ يُقَالُ لَكَ. This is a really interesting way that the Imam reframes this issue. Remember before the Imam said, don't speak about something you don't know. Now the Imam is saying that don't say what you don't know, even if what you do know is little. Don't say what you don't know, even if what you do know is little. So again, different ways we can understand this, different layers of understanding this. So let's say you know a little bit about a concept, a subject, an idea, whatever, a report, you know a little bit about it, but you don't know fully. Don't let the little that you do know, excuse you to speak on things that you don't. So that's number one. That's one way to understand it. And we spoke about this in nights past. Another way of reading this is to say, don't speak on things that you don't know, even if what you know be little. Which means you may know so little that the things that you really can't comment on are not that much. So you're forced kind of like to take this risk of speaking about things that you don't know anything about. Because if you're only going to restrict yourselves to the things that you do know, you'll have very little to say. This is a kind of sometimes I test myself. I'm not very good at making small talk. I don't understand maybe I just don't appreciate, the purpose of small talk, but I'm not very good at making small talk. When I converse with people, it's, there's a clear objective, speaking to them about something that I want or they want. And because of that, it's, for the most part, pretty to the point and efficient. Sometimes when I want to make small talk, I start thinking about things that I can speak about. And one of the things that gets the conversation going is to talk about other people. I don't have anything interesting to say about myself, or I don't think at least I do. For whatever reason, I can't seem to find anything interesting about the person. So to draw myself and to draw others into conversation, I talk about other people. Hey, did you hear so-and-so this, and that? Gets the conversation going. It breaks the silence. Imam says here, enduring that silence that you think is awkward is better than for you to open your mouth and speak about things that it's not appropriate for you to. Right? We don't have to make conversation always. If we really have nothing to say, we'll sit quietly, enjoy each other's company. Brother, the introvert within you is destroying all of our... No, there's no problem in conversing and exchanging and speaking, and that's fine. But if you're forced to talk on things, speak about things, that it's not your place, it's not appropriate, it's better not to. It's better to choose silence. The Imam says, don't say what you don't know, even if what you do know is belittle. Don't save your embarrassment by doing something that may potentially jeopardize the public image, the honor, the dignity of another person. They always speak about like, oh, don't gossip, don't backbite. I mean, one of the reasons why we do these things is because of this. It's not, part of it's our insecurities. We drag others down to make ourselves feel better. Sure. That's definitely at the center. But sometimes we're not thinking clearly. And we start talking about things that we shouldn't be just for the sake of making conversation. My humble advice is just observe yourself. In the conversations that you do have, in the small talk that you do make, are you saying things that are not well thought out? That if you really were to, challenge yourself, or others were to challenge you, would you know what you're talking about? Or is it all just kind of like opinionated discourse? I believe this, I believe that, I believe this, with very little research, with very little backing, with very little analytical engagement. That's dangerous. Muslims shouldn't be engaging in that type of talk. And the Imam ends this part by saying, وَاعْلَمْ أَنَّ الْإِعْجَابَ ضِدُّ الصَّوَابِ وَآفَةُ الْأَلْبَابِ فَاسْعَى فِي كَدْحِكَ وَلَا تَكُنْ خَازِنًا لِغَيْرِكَ وَإِذَا أَنْتَ هُدِيتَ لِقَصْدِكَ فَكُنْ أَخْشَعَ مَا تَكُونُ لِرَبِّكَ. And know that self-conceit is the enemy of good conduct and an indication of an affliction to the intellect. I wanted to speak about this last night, but I'll speak about this just a little bit too tonight, and we can kind of move forward. It says, endeavor in your struggle to earn a living, parentheses, but don't simply store things for others. This is a category of riwayat that really caught my attention first times I engaged with them. So, Quran is very clear. وَلَا تَنْسَ نَصِيبَكَ مِنَ الدُّنْيَا. Don't forget your share of this life. You have to earn a living. You have to provide for yourself and for your family. And to the extent that you can provide them, for them to be able to live, you want to call it comfortably, you want to say with some flexibility and some options and agency, fine. Don't constrain yourself. Earn a living. But there's a fine line between earning a living to provide, to spend, rainy day fund, a little investing, and between just storing things, between just growing an account, between just amassing wealth. That's not good. Because the riwayat say that's not only a waste of time, but it's the conduct of an ignorant person. It's the conduct of an idiot. You are meant to earn what you will need to provide for yourself and for those who depend on you, your dependents. To that extent, you are responsible and you are warranted to earn. Beyond that, you're never going to be able to use it in an appropriate, with an appropriate means, a spending that is justified. So you have no use for it. What are you wasting time collecting it for? Now, it may come to the point where a person says, well, I work so hard in life and I work so efficiently and my investments are in a way that even if I don't do anything, I don't spend any time, just money is going to keep coming my way. Fine. Congratulations to you. Take what you need. The rest of it, redirect it in a constructive and charitable way. No problem. No one's saying you have to stop that stream of revenue. Allocate it appropriately. But other than that, especially when a person is spending considerable amount of time and they have to cut from other things, that's not a very smart thing to do. Right? It's like advancing your socioeconomic class from a very manageable level. I won't use these categorizations of low income and middle class, and I don't know those different divisions, but something that you can live comfortably, you can provide for yourself and your family. Now you want to move from one level to another, that everything in your life, the amenities that are available, they bump from one level to another. If it's really not needed for you to live your life and to provide for your families, if you're going to go out of your way, take time from the family time that you have, spending time with your children, spending time on your own religious engagements, your own education, your health and well-being, you're going to sacrifice from all those things, you're going to rob yourself from all those things. That is Islamically problematic. Shouldn't be doing that. Oh, I want to save for my kids so my kids are comfortable. No, please don't. You are not the provider. God is the provider. Right? So these things are not in our hands. Brother, should I not save any money for my kids when I die? What about inheritance? Yes. What you have in this life, that when your time comes and you die, those assets that you have are going to be distributed amongst your inheritors. And inshallah, the way that the Quran instructs you to, not the way that you want to. But aside from that, oh brother, I want to have so much money so my children will never be concerned. No, they should be concerned. They have their own lives to live. They'll have their own struggles in life. They may be very wealthy, they may be destitute. They may be middle class, they may be lower middle class, they may be higher middle class. Don't exhaust your whole life to amass, the largest, bank account as you can. Quran is critical of this. In Surah At-Tawbah, ayah 34, Allah addresses the mu'minin. Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu, inna kathiran min al-ahbari wal-ruhban la ya'kuluna amwal an-nas bil-batil wa yasudduna an sabilillah. O you who believe, many of the scribes and the monks wrongfully consume the people's wealth and bar them from the way of Allah. And one of the things that they describe, وَالَّذِينَ يَنْكِزُونَ الذَّهَبَ وَالْفِضَّةَ وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. Those who treasure up gold and silver. Think of gold and silver as our precious US dollars. US dollars we used to be able to convert them to gold, but now just the paper. Those who rack up these things, who treasure up these things. And the tradition interestingly explains what constitutes kens, yankizun. They're just amassing beyond the need that they have. And وَلَا يُنْفِقُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ يُنْفِقُونَ فِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ. People have unbelievable amounts of money. Brother, sister, here's a cause that you may find worthy of your charitable giving. No. I want it for myself, I want it for my kids, I want it for my future, I want it for whatever. فَبَشِّرْهُمْ بِعَذَابٍ أَلِيمٍ. Inform them of a painful punishment. A painful punishment already is that you're wasting your time, the most valuable commodity, which is your time. But also you're going to be responsible. What are you doing amassing all this wealth? And you know what, really, we're talking about younger people and kids and stuff. It is my hope that all of your children, your grandchildren, all the generations after that, inshallah, they are compensated fairly and competitively for their work. And hopefully they make the most amount of money that they can. But to plant the seed in their mind that everything in life is about money and their value is tied to how much money they make, and no amount is ever enough, and no possession that they have is ever enough, that they just, lust for more and more and more and more. That's a sickness. Person's sick. I say, well, my children are not like that. Saadi has a very interesting example that he brings in one of his poems, and I'll just paraphrase it because I don't know anything about poetry. But he says that, we were invited to someone's house for dinner one night. This person invited us. We went and we saw he was an elderly man, not a dark hair on his body or his beard or his head, whatever they could see. And we saw this guy, and okay. And he started telling us about how he was really interested in buying these, commodities here and taking them to China. He's from Qazvin. Going all the way to China and selling it there because there's a good market there. Then from China, he wants to buy these other things and take them to, Damascus, because they're really, those things are, in demand there. And then from Damascus, I'm going to buy this other thing and take it to Halab and sell it there. And from Halab, I'm going to sell it and go over there. And he said 4 or 5 places. And he said, after I finish that, I promise then once I'm done, I could settle. And then I'm going to begin worshiping God. And Saadi said, you must be delusional. Remember, the story is he's already an older man. You're going to do all of these things. You travel the world and do all of these, make all these trades. And then finally you can settle and relax and worship God. So the only thing that's going to stop you from jumping from one country to another and making one trade to another is death. Now, unless death comes and stops you, there's no end to these things. And this is unfortunately a mindset and an attitude that's pervasive. We don't speak this way, but we act it. Well, this time of my life is dedicated to these things. And I'm being critical of myself right now, by the way. Don't say, oh, was this, this brother is, looking down on our kids. No, I'm frustrated at myself. So I'm speaking like this. I'm just sharing my frustrations with you publicly. This portion of my life is dedicated for these activities. And then this portion is for these activities. And then this portion is for these activities. I'm just, inshallah, Allah protect and prolong the life of my parents and my in-laws and all of those who have these kind of, they lend support. Say, you're a student right now. You're living a student's life. Student's life, you have to live like this and do this and not do these things and concern yourself with this. And after a while, you wake up and I'm about to die. I'm still in one of these stages. And there's so many other things I'm supposed to do in my life that I haven't done it. That's not their fault. I'm not blaming anybody. It's my own fault. But sometimes we do that. We kind of construct these time periods and say, well, right now you're this. So you just focus on these things. And now you're that. You focus on those things. And before you know it, in none of these areas is there time for personal development, spiritual development, holistic education, service to other people, community building. None of those, aiding the oppressed. All of those things seem to want to happen after all of these trades are made, like in the story of Saadi. So from the beginning, just like the Imam said as we opened, where's your destination? What are you working towards? What direction are you moving in? So if that's the case, there's no I do this today, I do the other one tomorrow. Everything is today and everything is tomorrow. And say, brother, I can't do everything in one day. Sure, there may be small micro adjustments that you make just because there isn't enough. But all of these things are happening in parallel. Right? Because no one knows. No one knows when the time is going to come for them to be like, okay, well, now I finished all of my commerce. Now it's time to go for worship. We don't have those guarantees in life. And because of that, a person has to be careful. I'll end with this anecdote, and I apologize, we're already over time. Every night I say I'm going to make it a shorter talk so I can get on with my life and get on with my, the rest of my night. This life is like a bridge that moves us from one place to another. And the Imam mentions this too, if I'm not mistaken, a little later. So treat it like a bridge. the story of Bohlul. Bohlul, for good or for bad, he's known in history as a person who did odd things. Some say he was crazy, some say he was, putting on a show. Whatever it was, he was a teacher through his actions and his responses. So one day this Bohlul, it's reported he was sitting on a bridge. And not only was he sitting on the bridge, anyone can sit on a bridge, he was sitting in the middle of the bridge. And he was kind of in the way of other people. He was a nuisance. Khalifa of the time, Harun al-Rashid, he's also, going with all of his stature. He comes, he's walking on this bridge and sees this Bohlul sitting in the middle. Okay, crazy Bohlul again. Bohlul, what are you doing? Why are you sitting on the bridge? Point of the bridge is for you to get from one side to another. If you're tired, you sit for a few minutes on the side and then, go. So he was making fun of him. So look at this guy. He's not intelligent enough to even know what the purpose of a bridge is. So Bohlul turned around in his style, and he said, "I'm not the one who's kind of rested on the bridge or is residing on the bridge. It's you. Isn't this life just a bridge to the hereafter? Aren't you meant to pass this bridge as easily and as efficiently as possible? What are you doing sitting on the bridge, amassing wealth, controlling other people, destroying your own afterlife for the pursuits and the pleasures of this world?" He's taken aback, Khalifa. It's one of those moments where he used his unacceptable or odd behavior to teach a lesson. And that's, for many of us, I think that's there's a lot of wisdom in that. This world is a bridge. We're meant to cross it. And there's no point in delaying that. You're supposed to just get from one point to another. So for us, it's to think, have we considered this world to be a bridge, or is it a place of residence that we want to stay as long as we can, and that we are afraid of the day that will come that will force us to cross this bridge, whether we want it or not. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who understand this world to be a testing ground, a place of passing, that the true life comes in the hereafter, that our children, our families are also those who are in pursuit of this true life, this true living, and through our support and your support, they're able to endure toils of the road, the separation of friends, the harshness of travel, and the coarseness of food, inshallah, until they arrive at their permanent destination. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hasten the appearance of our Imam, and for us to lend assistance and support to him in this time of occultation. We pray Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that if this night be the final night of the month of Ramadan, that we are able to exit this month as it is appropriate to, that we value the blessing of this month. Because if Thursday is, the moon is sighting, if Thursday is a Yawmul Eid, and tomorrow night then becomes the night where we sight the moon, and that officially would make tomorrow night the first night of the next month, not the last night of the month of Ramadan, and it seems to be the case. Inshallah, we hope to see you all tomorrow night. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalamu alaikum jami'an wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
الرحيم اللهم إني أفتتح الثناء بحمدك وأنت مسدد للصواب بمنك، وأيقنت أنك أنت أرحم الراحمين في موضع العفو والرحمة، وأشد المعاقبين في موضع النكال والنقمة، وأعظم المتجبرين في موضع الكبرياء والعظمة